It's time for your Talk Time Live exclusive.
You are now about to witness the strength of geek knowledge.
Ladies and gentlemen, making his fourth appearance to Talk Time Live is rapper, teacher, producer, Guinness World Record inductee, honorable member, I should say, of the New Day, Capcom ambassador, Billboard chart maker, and best of all, father. He is not only living that life, he is decided to write it in a memoir entitled Dream Master, a memoir from the stoop to the stage to the stars. We are here to talk about the book and everything going on around his latest chapter in life. So without further ado, let's welcome back Philly born, Phoenix strong, hip hop artist, Megaran. What's going on, bro?
Yo, what's up, man? That intro was amazing. Just chef's kiss. Great job. Thank you. I never felt so important in my life. I like it.
It always helps to like reflect on what you've done. And you sometimes forget when you go too far in the road. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that. Oh yeah, I did. You know, it is good to look back. That's part of why I wrote the book. You know, it was a lot of like, man, these moments are going to pass you by, and, you know, write them down while you can still remember them, while you can still, you know, appreciate them. And so that's really what it was about for me.
Absolutely. But before we even get to the memoir itself, which has been an awesome memoir, we're going to talk about that deeply. I want to congratulate you and your wife becoming parents recently and having a new member of the Jarbo family. I don't want to get too much into it because I know there's a lot to it, but you're in the early stages. I'm surprised you're awake to even be here to talk about it. So I want to ask, what lessons have you learned so far? Because there's going to be tons of lessons for you to learn.
Oh yeah, there's tons. I think the most important one is like being selfless, you know, like not worrying about what you are particularly going through, especially when you have the needs of a child and the balance, you know. So it don't matter whether you're tired, you're grouchy, you're cranky, you're angry, or, you know, it doesn't matter. That kid, it needs attention. And so you gotta be there for him, you know, and that's been a huge thing for me. And it's helped me to structure my life a lot better. I've been really bad at scheduling for my whole life. I just kind of do it. Like somebody tells me to be somewhere, I just be somewhere. But now I got to plan things in ahead of time. I got to talk to my wife. I got to make sure it's cleared. And it, you know, that communication step, that extra step there.
The true manager.
Something that we've learned. Yeah. Like, so I think I've definitely learned so many lessons, but I think the most important are this, that, you know, you gotta set aside your own personal feelings, sometimes your personal sleep or hobbies, in order to help someone else along. And I don't mind it, you know?
Right. It is a tiring but dope experience. I mean, I don't have a child of my own, but I did help, you know, raise my niece, you know, for a time being. So I staying up in those late nights of 2:00 in the morning, walking back and forth, making sure we all balance it out so we can all still progress in our lives in terms of going to school still and doing all this stuff. Yeah, I empathize with you on that.
Yeah,
but I'm also extremely happy for you guys and to do what you're doing. It's just absolutely awesome. And congratulations to both of you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. So since the last time you've been on the show, which was in 2020, like the end of 2020, you were on the show and we were just reminiscing about 2020 and how we were surviving that. But you had a chance to write a memoir that chronicled your road from student to teacher to the most unique rapper in the game right now and for the last few years. What led to you writing this book? And you said it briefly, but, you know, what led to you truly saying like, now it's time to record and chronicle all this?
Honestly, it was maybe a very long time ago when the idea first hit my brain. It was probably 10 years ago. I was on the tour with MC Chris and Kate Murdoch and I are riding together city to city. And during these long rides, I'm telling them stories. Oh, did I ever tell you about the time that this happened? Oh man, the time that I got robbed, or the time that I did this and this happened. And he's like, dude, you got to write a book. Like these stories are so interesting. And I was like, you know, everybody just says that, you know, but then he's like, seriously, man, you should start just jotting them down. And I did. So I started making little notes in my phone, even way back then, of like, you know, just some bullet points on a lot of stories and a lot of things that I remembered and important moments. And before I knew it, I had a lot of material. And I was like, one day when I get time, you know, I'm gonna put this stuff together. Right. And then pandemic was like, you got time, bro.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
That's what happened. We got hit with a whole Panda Express, and it was just time to do it. Like I didn't have anything else to do. So it was like, you know what? I'm going to write a chapter a week. I'm going to organize my thoughts and we're going to get it done. And by the time I finished, I was like, wow, I got a 200-page book here. And I hired an editor to read it. And she's like, it's great. It's great. And I was like, I don't really trust myself. So are you sure? And she's like, oh no, this is great. Then I hired another editor just because I didn't, I just was like, come on, ain't no way. This is my first time writing a book. It's not perfect. Right. Like, come on, like give me some real feedback, like tear me apart. And so I hired another editor who gave me a lot of feedback as well. And I just used both of their, advice.
You G-condued it into what you have right now.
Absolutely. And because it was going to be like part self-help, part like anecdotal stories, and then part like tips and tricks on how to like live your dream.
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, those are 3 different books, and I was like, oh, you're right. And she's like, think about the next book. And I was like, the next book? Like, I'm just trying to get through one book, and she's just like, just keep thinking about the next book. So I thought, so she's like, you have to have an end point for this book. And I was like, all right, so the ending point will be a big moment that happens. So I was like, all right, the Guinness World Record. That's a big moment. And that happened in 2018. And it's a great story leading up to it. So I was like, okay, that's the final chapter. Then everything else will go to the next book. Okay. So that's what it was, and so I had to edit myself down and be like, next book.
I'm glad you said that because I was looking for other elements of that. I know of your road to be added in that wasn't added in. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something else coming. Because right now, which is awesome too, because this book to me was like there's only one other book that this reminded me of in terms of chronicling your life and things around you at the time, and that was Chris Jericho's Lionheart book. If you ever read that.
Yeah, it's a great read.
Oh, it's an awesome read, and this one kind of gave me vibes of that, and I was just like, I went through almost the same immersed journey reading this book as I did that book when it came out. Like really detailed, really, reminiscent on nostalgic, things that have happened in his life that we can relate to and stuff like that. It was very, and I'm sure I could speak for many who read this book and saying that like, this was, there were a lot of relatable experiences growing up, especially in your part of Philadelphia. When I've read this, I was like, God, it's like we just sitting in my stoop right now, talking about what we used to go through back in the day. And really understanding what we went through, like whether it was fun times or bad times, it's like we could click. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that had that feeling. Like when I read it, it was both a sigh of relief and a hug in some points of it where like, I'm hearing someone who understood, what I've been going through and, growing up and experiencing still to this day. Let me tell you, it felt validating at best, so much so that I end up buying more copies of it. I brought one for my wife. My parents-in-law also got one too, because my parents-in-law are Caucasian. So they're very willing and inviting, but they still have a lot to learn about certain cultures and ideologies. This book really doubled down on everything that I went through, but some of the stuff that you were going through. So it's like another aspect. There were some similarities, but then you went on your own road. And that's what I felt.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, your road basically, when it started, it was like when you're driving on the road and there's a bunch of people driving on the same road, but then you go on this different road and we're looking at you like, why is he going this road? What the hell is he thinking? Why everybody safely wants to go through this road right here. And it's like, okay, let's see who meets at the end of this road and see how they fare. Where you fared, you took a risk in going to that road and you fared really well, and others are just, so it's just like it's like they just settled on just going to the safe and narrow. And that's what I got out of this book. And I loved it because I felt like that's kind of the journey that I went to in a different, in its core, I've experienced it, but we all went in our different roads and we had different experiences from there and who made it out to do what at the end. And that's what I loved about this book.
Thank you, man. There was a lot of books that were kind of like my blueprint to creating this, the Jericho book for sure. Mick Foley's book as well is extremely.
Have a Nice Day, or which one?
Yeah, Have a Nice Day.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So it's extremely autobiographical, also like funny, also kind of, gut wrenching at times, and LL Cool J has a book that inspired me as well.
I think I know what you're talking about. I read that like ages ago.
Yeah, I read it a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember that book.
Yeah, so there's that. Who else? Trevor Noah's book more recently.
Yes.
Very inspiring to this story. And
so
Michelle
I'm glad
Obama's
I got
book.
you here because I feel like I'm having one of those Daily Show interviews right now with somebody who would have just came out with a book.
Nice. Yeah, Trevor Noah is great, man.
He's awesome.
I love him. His comedy is awesome, and like his story is just incredible.
Yeah.
And so him and Michelle Obama actually was.
My wife has read that one. I haven't gotten to that one yet, but she loves it.
My wife was listening to it on audio book, and I was like, maybe I walk in the room and hear it, and I was just like, yo, I remember that. You know what I mean? Like I was just hearing things and being like, oh wow, like we had a lot of the same experiences.
That's how it was with your book. That's exactly how it was with your book, especially when you're talking about like going to like Martin Luther King High or some of the experiences that you had. For some reason, you didn't want to hang around Southwest Philly where I lived at, but that's a whole other story.
I was scared of Southwest.
I didn't know. You know, it's funny. I didn't know that Southwest had that lore like that. Like to me, it was just that's where I live. I used to live on 57th Street between Whoopi and Thomas up there. So I went to like Long Street.
I don't know, man. We still hear a lot of stories about people getting beat up or shot.
You know what? I can tell you why. I can tell you why. And I probably shouldn't say this name because it's almost like as bad as saying Candyman in this case. But have you ever heard of the name Rudolph McGriff?
No.
Okay, you're in luck because that's if you heard anything that was during in the 80s or maybe slightly the 90s, that name Rudolph possibly is the reason. That kid was like, or dude now, he was like a bully, like one of the main bullies. And he was so bad, like Bartram High, a gang of like not just 5 people, classroom amounts of people came down to Turner Middle School to come after this dude. And I remember that day vividly because we were all in the alleyway waiting to see this happen because everybody here before the internet, everybody was rumoring like that, he was starting trouble at Bartram High School, wearing junior high, and they coming down to go after him. Like that's how, and this dude had no flinch in him at all. He just stood there as this mob of high schoolers came down. And it was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But he was a major bully that ended up, I guess, achieving his goal by becoming Philadelphia's most wanted.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You two can reach your goals.
Well, okay. Yeah.
If you got
set goals.
Any of those mythologies of Southwest Philly probably stem a lot from what he was doing.
Okay. So he was the reason. But yeah, man, we just heard so many stories and it seems so far. Like, Philadelphia. Yeah. And like from one end to the other just seems so far.
It's like how we were with North Philly too back then.
Yeah, like that was another world. Like, it was, even for me, North Philly was only 15, 20 minutes, but we was like, man, we're not going to North Philly. It's just, it just seemed like a lot of effort, even though you can just get right on the train. Right. 5 stops on the sub and you're there. But like, it just felt like another world. And I'm sure it's like that in New York with the boroughs and stuff too. Yeah. Like we just felt like South Philly is
Philly too, like 9th Street.
Yeah, we felt like South Philly is the Badlands, the darkness out in the Lion King, where it's like, you must never go there, and because it was just so far. So I think we were just afraid of what we didn't know. And that's really what it was.
You fear what you don't understand, right? Exactly.
Yeah, because being like after high school, we were like, yo, you know where we gonna go? We going to South Street. You know what I'm saying? And it was like a big deal.
That was Switzerland.
Like we were all like, we going to South Street. Like, yo, for real, you go to South Street? What? Like it was such a big moment to be able to say, we're going down to South Philly.
I miss old South Street too, bro. Like I used to work down at South Street, like in 99 and 2000. There was an art store down there called Pearl Arts and Craft, and I used to work there. I used to be the supervisor in that spot.
Wow,
which is right across from like Philadelphia, which was in
Philadelphia. Yeah. Wow. Do you remember Pearl of Africa?
Yes,
there was this little head shop,
9th and 10th,
and that's where I first started rhyming at.
Which I read in the book, and I was like, I was flipping out, like, yo, are you serious?
Yeah, they had an upstairs and they used to do an open mic. And like, that's the first place I started like spitting my little raps.
You mentioned that in the book. That was one of the things like, oh, that's dope. I had no idea. You were probably around there during the times when I was at the, because, the game store and the comic book store was down there too. Like Got Game and all that stuff was down there too.
Yep.
Which was like a block away from Pearl of Africa.
Yep. Dang, man, that's so crazy. But at that time, it's funny. I was a different person. I wasn't into video games, believe it or not. Like, I think I talk about that a little bit in the book too. Like when I graduated, I don't know why, I just thought games is over. Like, it's time for me to be a man. Like, it ain't no time for video games. I gotta pay these bills. So
Right.
like instantly, I even left, I think it either was a Genesis or a Super Nintendo in storage at Penn State.
Wow.
Like, I was just like, I gotta leave this stuff behind. Like, I don't know why I thought that, but I was just so afraid of the real world that I was like, I'm not gonna have any time to play games.
It was times. It was the ideology of the times. I mean, they made it. They almost got us and made us think that, video games wasn't going to be, beneficial to us now. And look at it. Look how everything is going.
Right. Look at it now. They always come back. But yeah, like I took like a good 2 years off when I was first starting to teach, because I just thought I was going to have too much of a load. And it was very stressful, like trying to learn how to be a good teacher and things like that. So I was like, man, there's no time for games. And so back then, games, comic books, all that stuff was out of my mind. Like, I had sat it down for 2 years. I traded all my stuff away. I, lent people's whole stuff and never got it back. And and I didn't get back into, Xbox, I guess, Wow. And so it took me a minute to kind of get back into gaming. And then I'm making up for lost time even now.
Oh, you've done so and then some. Okay. But another thing that I dug about the book that I thought you talk about, like educating and bringing awareness of, was that you did a lot of historical research in the book that talked about the events in Philly during the 80s and the 90s. I mean, like really, really historical elements in Philly, like involving Mary Good, the Move Project, stuff like that, like up in Osage and all that. I was amazed to see that. And I thought that was a absolute awesome element that you brought in there. How long did it take you to research all that information and gather it?
Man, that took months. There were days I would just kind of separate my days and be like, okay, on these days, I'm going to write the personal narrative moments. And on these days, I'm going to research and find the history of a lot of things. Because even when I was living these moments, like, I didn't know what was going on. I turned on the TV when Move happened, and I didn't know why. You know what I'm saying? So
I was young. I was about the age too. Like,
that was 85. So like, I'm not even
crazy
10.
Story. I used to live in Southwest. So Cobbs Creek is right up there. And Mayor Good, who was the person responsible for that whole entire thing. He did a little rally or something over there. And I thought, back then it's the 80s. So we think everybody who we see on TV is like a big deal celebrity. Yeah. And he walks up to me and pats me on the head. So it was like his little save face moment, not knowing what he would do later on.
Wow. That's so crazy. And then before that, we just thought, before that, like, Wilson Good was a folk hero. Like, he was, it was the black man in charge. Oh, it's great.
Exactly.
Like, we just, he was a hero. And then we're like, wait a minute, he made that call? Like, wow. So for people who don't know, like, he like dropped a bomb on a group of people who were, just living their lives, minding their business, maybe refusing to operate through a little of our societal, rules and norms. But like, in order to, because he couldn't get them to leave or to whatever, he thought they were endangering people or children or whatever was going on. And then he literally like ordered a helicopter to just drop a bomb on a block and blow up an entire city block.
And when I read that vision, that footage still imprints in my head to this day, when I used to watch it on like Action News and all this stuff. And it's still, I can visualize it right now. It's just the craziest
It's some moments that I can still see. And as you're my age, so we can relate on it, like that. And like the Challenger explosion.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that
being
teacher,
like
everybody that they were really
everybody, they was talking about it so much. Everybody, they let us come home early to watch it or something like that. Or we came home from school and everybody's watching it.
Collect our thoughts, basically.
And it was just like, yo, that's it. Like, we were just like, I can't believe this, like very traumatic stuff happened, through the 80s. You know what I'm saying? 80s were a time, it
to
really
look
back on. So it was good for me to be able to look back on those moments, good and bad, and kind of give some background, you know what I mean? Because like me and you, we know it, but I was like, I got to go and do the historical research so that people who don't know, who weren't in Philly at that time, can understand what made Philly what it was. You know what I'm saying?
Which is plainly the reason why I end up buying the other copies and giving it, because I like, let me tell you, they live in like Lancaster area, Manheim, PA. So that's a county region that like only, it's like they're in this bubble. And I come in there like the proverbial ambassador. You know what I mean? Like, I represent Philly and the culture for some reason. And every bit a little bit they come out is like, all right, you really got to understand what I've been through to know, understand what I'm doing now. And your book helps that by not only chronicling what you went through in your experience, but also what went on during that time. So you get
Nice.
it creates this visual, narrative of understanding that I found it very helpful. So thank you for that.
Nice. Thank you, man. You're like the tour guide, into this life.
And now I have an instruction booklet.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So as a shameless plug, I did an audio book, and it literally it took forever to do, but only because you wind up hating the sound of your own voice when you're reading for 15 hours.
Yeah.
But there's so much of oh man, this is, then you start realizing maybe there's things I can add because I'm at a moment where now it's all kind of customizable. So I added 2 new chapters.
I noticed and I loved them. And I brought the Audible one shortly after because I'm like, reading it is one thing. Now I get to hear his voice and do all these imitations and
yeah, that was the fun part for me is actually taking people into those moments. And there was such a huge moment that I didn't get to discuss because the book came out before it, is my father passing.
right.
And so I was I had never talked about it. I didn't write a song about it. I didn't do anything besides an Instagram post,
Yeah.
And so I was I have to give this the attention it needs, even just, therapeutically, I have to get this off of my chest and my body. And so that's where that came in handy, is that I was in the process of still recording the book. And I was just okay, I'm going to make a final chapter about my dad, and kind of just to give me the full closure I needed, and that was super important to me. So I hope that people do get to read it. And
I think it was not only super important to you, but I think everybody, I guess myself included, who had, situations with their father, especially during those eras, because that would seem to be, 80s was also the Rolling Stone era for pops. Yep. And my pop was no different from that situation as well. So, I mean, I think to that measure, it really helped out therapeutically for others to hear that you also went through that too.
Yeah,
I thought it was an awesome addition to that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I tell you what else was awesome too. Your imitation of Cedric the Entertainer.
I think that's pretty good.
That was awesome.
Shop. This is the bomb shop. Oh man. And that was fun. I was always really too good at imitations when I was young growing up, and I would just impersonate adults a lot and get in trouble for it. So now I can do it and not get in trouble, which feels good. But yeah, I used to just hey, stop mocking me, boy. I'm oh, stop mocking me, boy. Yeah, that was my thing back in the day.
Also, the fact that you talked about you being a class clown, but you did it in a means of defense as well, because I think that's we had similar but different high school experiences. I think we both were class clowns under different circumstances. I went to Brooke. Okay. So my situation, Brooke used to be known as 2 things. It was a big fashion show, because everybody went to Reading and got the Tommy Hilfigers and the Nauticas and all the stuff just to try to be the most impressive person. They had a best dressed, contest every year. It was hectic on that note. But then you had to kind of, from a mentally point, you had to learn how to roast or what we say in Philly, bussing on somebody. Yeah, we had to really be. It was like a sport in Brooke, and you had to be because they would get you, man. And it was between that, or you had to learn how to defend yourself on the other hand. So I was a little bit of both, and whereas I think you did it in a way where you were more passive aggressive with it. I did it in a way, it was it led me to getting in some major trouble in a case too. So I really appreciated hearing that part, but wish I would have went your direction. Because my direction let me you probably stayed in in Martin Luther King High for all 4 years. I ended up going to Brooke, getting kicked out of Brooke, going to Cato, getting out of Cato after I got myself together, going to West Philly High, and then end up in a school called Philadelphia Regional.
Wow. Oh,
While also take note, I got left back in 9th grade. And then also at that point, I worked my butt off to get back in the same grade and still graduate in the 4th year. Because it was it was here, it was Glen Mills from here. So I got to get myself together. I got to.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't go that far. I was scared to go that far. You know what I mean? I was the class clown who would cut up, but I knew the line, and I tiptoe up
the line. Your line was your mom.
Yeah, because I knew if my mom come up here or she found out what I'm doing, she's going to kill me. So I had the fear of God from her. So that kept me in line. Like I would just do silly stuff, but I didn't want her to come up there and
you got your limits. Like, whereas like, I just didn't, it's like, I really did not.
Yeah.
I was in Onyx mode all the time.
Wow.
But let's talk about something else that was awesome about both the written and the audio version was that you had His Highness himself, WWE superstar King Xavier Woods, on to do the forward for you. You two been friends for quite some time. I automatically call you an honorary member of the New Day.
I appreciate that.
And it was awesome that, he talked about his introduction of you in there. What were your thoughts when you read his forward and hearing it as well in the audible version?
Man, like hearing it was one thing, but I think reading it, he sent it to me, and it really like took me aback. I was just like, wow, like I had some idea about how we met, and I think people ask us a lot, like, hey, how'd you guys run into each other? And like it just showed me the power of the internet, like just me putting out these silly rap songs, and then someone in a whole different world and a whole different way of life sees these songs, enjoys them, and has the same story and the same relation to these things that I did. So it was just really dope. Like his birthday is the day after mine. Wow. Like it just turned out that we were like very, very close on a lot of things. And I was just like, dude, this is like nuts.
Yeah.
And, but reading it, I was just like, man, like this showing me a little bit of how inspirational you can be, even when you don't know it. Like when you don't know anybody's looking, I think that's what it showed me. It's like, man, when you think nobody's watching, I think that's when you got to go harder.
Agreed.
Because you never know who's listening, who's watching.
Agreed. Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah. So that was extremely, that was the biggest takeaway from that. I was just like, man, you just never know, and so you got to just go hard.
Well said. I totally 100% agree with that. And I've done that in my own experience as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of the reason why we've met was because of that aspect as well, too. And, everybody I've had the honor of being on the show and ever working with or collaborating with in some cases too. So it's the reason why I'm really happy that I get to hear your voice every time on my show.
I'm honored.
So in the book, you talk about some of the places that you worked at. And I told you when I texted you, I was like, are we going to talk? Because I lit up because of, I've worked at some of those same places and had some similar experiences. So I want to break down like two of them in particular. I don't want to see whether you went through the same things that I do. Boston Market. Let's start with that.
Oh boy.
Did you work in the back or were you working register?
I was in the back. I wasn't pretty enough to be up front. So they threw me in the back. They did the
same thing in I used to work at New Times Square one, the branch up there.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, I was in Glenside.
Oh wow. That's my wife was all up there.
And that was like, I liked eating Boston Market. So I was like, all right, well, how bad could this be? And then they take you in the back and you're like, oh, here's how the sausage gets made. And then you're like, man. And so, yeah, like I said, I had to mess with the spits that the rotisseries were on.
And take it into them cold ass freezers?
Take them in the freezers. At the end of the night, I had to take the power hose to them to get the chicken guts off.
Yes.
Oh my God. It was just like trying to get them off of there.
I'm there with you.
Oh God, it was just disgusting work.
Wait, how my question, in addition to that, is like, how big was the working area? Because mine was kind of tight. Whereas
not big at all. It's like about the size of my room here.
Oh, that's even bigger.
Yeah, and most of it was a sink. Most of it was like the utility sink.
Yes.
And so the floor was always wet, slippery. Like it was just disgusting back there. Dude, yeah, like I would never.
Yeah. Like some things should be near other things.
Nah, yeah. Like if you saw that, they should let the customers take a peek back there. Like they would never eat there. Like any restaurant, especially fast food, they should let you peek in or let you walk through before you order. And then you're like, never mind.
The one thing I've always wanted to take away from that place in terms of like what I wanted to eat there, pot pies and the cookies, because they were already wrapped and the pot pies were already done. Everything else was like, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. So the other one was one of my kind of my nearest and dearest, because it was one of the more, like when I worked retail, it was one of the longer, jobs that I worked in retail before I went corporate, was CVS.
Okay.
CVS was a very interesting place because, and I worked at the one in 19th and Chestnut, which
Okay.
was like it was like the headquarters to train all the managers, just all the branches.
Mhm.
But it was very interesting to say the least, especially in 98, because we got away with some things that we probably wouldn't get away with today. So were you also working register, or were you doing stock as well, or both?
I did a little bit of both. Yeah. Mostly register though. I was up front a lot doing.
So you never did the Wednesday, Sunday stock, unless it was like a bigger thing.
Yeah. If it was a big rush, like we had to all come in for, but I didn't do a lot of stock. Yeah.
Okay. You lucked out. Like no, that's not true, because the register can be like people, dealing with people behind the register can be it can be stressful at best.
Yeah.
Working those trucks can sometimes be relieving because you don't have to deal with and remember 19th and Market, there was a bunch of retirement homes. So we had a bunch of entitled old people.
Oh.
And that we had to do customer service for.
Yeah, I can see now, like doing stock is much better in a lot of ways where you don't have to deal with people.
Yeah.
Like I see people in like Walmart and stuff doing stock, and they'd be like headphones on, just working. You ain't got to talk to nobody.
Just
like,
zone them out.
Get in your zone and just do the work. Right. And so that's where I wish I could do, but on the register, nah, not at all. And everybody mad. Everybody want a discount. Everybody, this rung up wrong. Give me a rain check. Oh, I got a coupon for this. I need this. I'm like, oh, come on. And it was rough, man. It really was.
Now, I'm sure you know this little technique. Eyes, highs, and help.
Yes. Yep. Oh, man. These are like bad memories. I mean, not bad memories, but just, traumatic. This is like a great callback to my
if anything that's a trigger
life.
Moment, that will be it.
Yeah, for real. Oh my gosh, I remember so many meetings them talking about that.
But did you ever have to experience a situation where you had to you saw somebody that was suspect pretty much?
No, we were lucky. We had a greeter, a quote unquote greeter in the front of our store.
The greeters would have to also do that as well.
Who was mainly his job was just to eye everybody and make sure everything was on the up and up. So if we didn't catch anything, he always did. Even the manager was also I'm giving away a bunch of secrets. Oh yeah, he's giving away trade secrets. So the managers are behind a two-way mirror,
exactly.
And they can see everything too. So it's but yeah, man, this dude Nate, he was a G, because he had his little sunglasses on and would talk to everybody, old ladies to everybody. Hey, how you doing, beautiful? Hey. But he's watching everything. And so even on the day, our fateful day when our store got robbed, and I robbed at gunpoint, he was the one who was able to perfectly point out the descriptions of everybody, because he was just so on point. Even in the midst of a traumatic situation, I don't remember anything. It was a blur to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know what they look like, what they're wearing. I don't things happen so fast. I'm not thinking about that.
Right.
But he was so on point, man. And he really helped out big time.
Now, we didn't have the gunpoint. We never had a gunpoint situation, at least not at the daytime, because the one in 19th was 24 hours. So there were, I'm pretty sure there were some nighttime robberies and all this stuff, because there was nobody in there at the time. But the daytime, dude, we're teens too, so we're doing stupid stuff. We don't know better. We were like cops in our spot, because we would chase down the people who stole $100 worth of a leave or something like that, doing the stupidest things we probably shouldn't be doing. And we were allowed to do it because the deal is we had to do it in defense of things. So the cops would okay it if done right. And then we would call the cops to come in afterwards, but we get a few minutes depending on the situation. These guys is okay, as long as we catch him, he does right, he's cool, he's fine. But if he swings, it's over.
Yep.
And there was a lot of sneaks that were being taken off of people, and there was a lot of things that were happening that probably in today's standards would be yo.
That was excessive. I don't know,
I've even gone as far as to chase somebody from down to Market Street to Chestnut Street all the way to JFK.
Wow.
And it, in my head, it's I got Beastie Boys Sabotage in my head as I'm chasing. We had some crazy moments, man. But CVS it was a memory. It was an interesting memory in my retail life.
Yeah, man. We had an interesting time there too. Like my manager, he was cool, but he was
Mhm.
always trying to like flirt with every girl they
Oh,
hired.
he is that
He
dude.
was that guy, it's
Uh,
like, oh, he all up in every girl's face. And I'm like, come on, dude. And like never, I'm like, meanwhile, hey, I need help, and he's over here doing he trying to do his own thing. But what a time. Like, and it was so close to my house, which I loved. Like I was
oh,
able
that
to
was
walk.
awesome.
So for once, like I had a job where I could just walk to there.
Mhm.
And but yeah, man, it was fun. The most fun that I don't necessarily need to do again.
Well said. Absolutely well said.
Mhm.
So, do you have a personal favorite chapter that you have in the book overall?
Um, I guess I'm kind of biased toward the newer chapters
Mhm.
because the other ones I've literally some of them I've had since 2015, you know what I mean? Like in my head,
Right.
or I've been reading over them for so
Right.
long. Um, I really like telling the high school stories because high school is a real big part of me and what I was growing up doing.
Yeah.
So I like telling those stories. I also like the chapter about my wife and meeting her.
Mhm.
And I think that was a real cool story to kind of break it up. I feel like somebody did an interview with me over a newspaper and they were like, Megaran touches on tragedy in his memoir. And I was like, well, dang, it's not all about tragedy.
You try,
Like,
yeah, he thirst trapping.
you know what I mean? He went a little heavy on the,
Yeah.
tragedy. And I was like, well, okay, it does start with a tragic moment. And I guess it ends with, a sad moment,
Right.
but it's
That was not
not,
the whole focus.
yeah, like that's not the whole journey. Like, and there's some positive moments. There's some
And no, there was a
triumphs.
hell of a lot of positive moments. And he singled you out to make it seem like you're like an
Yeah, they're
endangered
like I'm out here
statistic.
like trauma baiting. Like, look at this black man. Look what he's been through. It's been so rough, and it's like, well, it's
Word,
rough.
homie.
But at the same time, like, I really love there's this TV show called Southside. I don't know if you've seen it. It's
I just
based in
watched the new
Chicago
season on HBO Max.
and it's so good.
Love it.
And I love that when they talk to those guys who created it. I think I
Yeah.
saw an interview on like Fallon or something. And they
Yes.
were like, yeah, man, we're from the hood. We've lived in the
Mhm.
hood. We love the hood. The hood is dangerous. It is all that stuff. It's scary. But there's some funny mugs out here too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like every day we're laughing. Like we're not just ducking bullets and scared and crying
Right.
every day. Like we're living life and loving it and
It's
having a
brilliantly done.
blast. And so, and you see that, you really see that in the show. It's so,
Almost to the point
so
it
well
really
done.
does feel like there's a portion of that show that really feels like you don't realize that you realize that you're watching a show. It
Mhm. It
it's
just feels
dudes
real.
that you recognize and you probably would see around the way.
Exactly. That's the most relatable show I've watched in probably a long time. Where I
Yeah.
was just like, yeah, everybody got like the funny dude that's just in the spot with us and just makes everybody laugh, or
Mhm.
he's really silly, And I love that these are complex characters. The
Yeah.
one dude is like a nerd, into like science heavy, but like but they're also taking the time.
The cops are my favorites.
The cops are ridiculous. So I love that about this show. It's like they're all complex people. Like it
Yeah.
ain't just, it ain't just one type of person. You're like, oh, this the gangster and he's just gangster. Like, no, man, people are just funny and they're living life and surviving and
Yeah.
making the best of it, And so I
And
wanted
mostly
to show
people
that.
that look like us in,
Mhm.
in all different aspects.
Yeah. And like how difficult is it to have a show? And I remember a lot of like TV blacks who write in TV saying it like,
Yeah.
Why can't we just have a show where they're just regular ass black folks? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to be a thug. You don't have to be a gangster. You don't have to be this or that. Like, why can't we just like you do shows about regular mediocre white folks all the time? Like, why can't we do that with people of color?
I give another show that if you haven't watched it already, Grand Crew, which is on NBC.
Yeah, it's great.
Nicole Byes is one of my favorite comedians right now.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Killing it. Like she's on there. She's working with Cena. She's like her own comedy. Her, I forgot my man from who used to be on Arrows, Mr. Terrific. He's on there too. And just a whole squad of awesome, like just the cast is awesome, but they're also like in a much better perspective than we are used to seeing, anybody like us in there. And I love shows. I'm supporting shows like this.
Well, you got to watch, if you haven't yet, Abbott Elementary.
Oh no,
Oh my
dude!
God. I'm about to say you have to. It's Philly.
Dude, it's the
You know what I'm
Philadelphia school
saying?
system. Are you
Like,
kidding me?
you have to watch that. Like that show, talk about triggering. I was like, this is funny, but it's not really funny because I went through this. Like, there's a lot of that.
The first day I saw it, and I figured out because I didn't see it like as it aired, but I watched it on Hulu because I'm like, I saw the trailers and its commercials, and I'm like, I got to give this a chance. There's something about this that looks. Even before I knew that it was covering the Philadelphia school system, and then I saw they're watching Action News. I'm like, what is going on here?
Right. You're like, wait a minute, that's Jim Gardner.
That's
like,
Jim
what you
Gardner. I'm like, oh my God, is this the Philadelphia school system?
I was like, dang, how did they even allow them to do this? Like, I feel like to me, this is the stuff that I like write about in my diary that like I would never talk about. But like, I'll be like, man, you ain't gonna be allowed back in the schools after this.
They about to put them on blast.
But yeah, like it's so real. I was like, man, they talk about South Philly, people parking in the middle of the street.
Yes.
Like, yo, there's
the
just
teacher
so
from
much.
South Philly is awesome.
Yo, she's great. That show is brilliant. So seeing us in different lights is basically what I wanted to get at. And that's like, man, like that was the hardest part about this isn't a question you asked, but it's definitely an experience that I've had when I put out this book, when I wrote this book. My friends like kind of it's inspired me to reach out to try to get like publishing help. Right. You know, maybe talk to some publishers about it. And that was like the worst experience ever because publishers are like, all right, yo, especially at that time, you know, this is early 2021, right? You know, and they're like, oh, Black trauma. Okay, this is
juicy. This is sellable.
You know what I'm saying? It's juicy. Let's go, George Floyd. Let's go. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, really? And they're like, well, you know, that stuff is in right now. So if you could
it's the other thing like sex sells.
Yeah, if you could skew it that way, then we can get this published. And I'm like, nah, man, like that's not my story.
Like he's trying to change your narrative. Like,
yeah.
I really dig that his audacity.
I couldn't. Yeah, I was like, this feels disgusting. Like I'm gonna do it myself. Like I've talked to so many people and they're like, well, you gotta categorize your book. Is it a book about video games? Is it a book about music? Is it a book about a coming of age story in Black America? Is it, you know, like what is it?
They're trying to confine you to a certain target audience and a certain
theme. And I get it. I've had that story my talk my whole life with music too. It's like, oh, well, what do you know? Are you a hip hop guy or the nerd guy? And it's like, right. Why can't you do both? And that's where these shows show me like we can be both. We can be multi-layered people.
Thank you.
And it's only us that I don't want to say only us, but it is definitely us that I feel like they try to squeeze us into a box. Like, no, are you the thugged out Black dude? Or are you the Afrocentric Black dude? Are you the, you know, it's like, why can't I be the all Black dude? You know, just a guy who's well-rounded. And
I tell you this, like the same rules apply for graphic design. Like when I, went to school for that, they tell you, and a lot of people tell you, and I have, people who were like, help me out, tell me like, you got to get targeted to one direct target audience of people that you want to, work for. Do you want to work for small businesses? Do you want to work for, people in the entertainment world? Do you want to work for, established, sophisticated environment? I'm like, why not all of it? If I can comprehend every single, every single understanding of everything that's going on, why can't I do it? And I do. I've been doing that for the age. Like I work in entertainment, I work business as well. There's the guy, legendary graphic designer. In fact, they call him the father of graphic design, named Paul Rand. This dude has basically done everything. He created the UPS logo. He created the he created a bunch of different logos. The Efron logo, I believe. He's done a ton of like a lot of legendary logo designs that you probably seen from businesses to this day. He's done. And he's also worked in magazines and he's done, spreads and all this stuff. He's done a ton of like, why can't I do that? Like, why can't I be the every person? Why can't I just branch out? Like, I don't have to be named Ye in order to be like, to be that ambitious and branch out. Like, don't limit me.
Exactly. It's so true. Why do we have to be so limited? It makes me sad. And like I said, I don't want to jump on this soapbox like, oh, it's only us, it's Black folks. And like, I'm sure marginalized people of color get this treatment a lot where it's like, okay, you got to be the funny Black dude or the funny Asian or the smart this or that, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's really annoying. So that's why I like to see, I'm loving what I'm seeing out here now where Black folk are able to be who they are, which is multi-layered, complex humans. You know what
Well,
I'm saying? And that's really all we want to be. We just want to be humans.
Q-Tip said it best. You know, you could be a black man and lose all your soul. You could be right for real, but don't prep the role. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, you can evolve, you can assimilate. You know, you have the right, like, but still in your core, be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to, like, we need to change our whole entire like way we think, our ideology, and all that stuff, man. I hope to be alive to see that someday,
Yeah.
or if best our next generation really make it happen.
For sure.
So you already talked about, like, you kind of gave, you know, a hint off that you were doing, because you've done a hell of a lot with your, you know, career thus far. And so it's safe to say that you will be working on a second book. Was it anything that you wanted to add on to this one that you didn't, and you may be holding it off in this case?
Oh yeah, plenty. I had so many things that I wanted to say, and I was just like, nah, I'm gonna save it.
Mhm.
I've had whole chapters where I've had to just like X them and been like, nope,
Oh,
like I'll save this for later. You know,
Mhm.
I'll get to them. I promise I will. But there's so many things, and there were stories that I told that I thought were maybe kind of mean. And I hadn't necessarily talked to the person that, you know, that was involved in them. So I was
Mhm.
like, all right, I can't be out here dry snitching. You know what I'm saying? So there was a big part of that too, where I was like, all right, man, I don't want to make this
Right.
person look weird. Or
Right.
maybe I'm just remembering this wrong. So if I don't get to speak to a person about it, I'm like, nah, I better not say it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So that was that's part of the reasons why I've taken some things out. But a lot of those things they'll return in the sequel. So
Good.
I don't know when. You know, I'm just kind of at a point where I'm taking a moment, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of gonna not rest on my laurels, but just kind of relax a bit and enjoy what we've been able to create. But there will be another book, and there'll be different formats. Like I think I want to do like a self-help book. I want to do
Mhm.
like tips and tricks on living the dream. I want to do you know, maybe a children's book. I want to do some
A children's book would be awesome.
yeah, I want to do some fiction, you know, like so I want to have some fun with different genres as well. So that's going to happen.
Hey, but are you actually going to do a continuation of the memoir, like a sequel to that as well? Because I mean, I was surprised not to see your Madison Square Garden nod on that
Oh yeah,
either.
because that
So,
happened in 2019. So that was the year after.
right. So
So
okay, so that is the cutoff.
yeah, the cutoff was 2018. And so I couldn't talk about anything after that. So
Okay.
that stuff is the next book. And but I, you know, at this rate, I may have to wait 10 years to write the next book, like the next memoir. Because, you know, but I mean, there's been a lot of dope stuff that's happened, to be honest, between 2018 and now.
Yeah.
That I think would make a great book. You know, that's when I
Mhm.
started really working with WWE. There's been all kinds of cool stuff. But yeah, that'll be in the sequel, which is happening TBD. That is to be determined. But yes, Madison Square Garden, all that. Like, yeah, it's too new to me anyway. I
Yeah.
was like, it's a
Well,
little
no,
too
it
new.
is. I mean, like you just came out with it, what, like 2021?
Yeah.
And then
So
Audible like just recently came out, so it's still fresh.
Yeah, it's still fresh. Like I don't want to be like, oh, and yesterday I did this. You know, it's like music though. I feel like you can be very like new and current. So
Right.
there is a lot of reference to the Madison Square Garden on the Live 95 album. You know,
Which
like
I'm glad you segued that in.
nice.
Because like speaking of that, you recently, you know, made it back in with this Billboard making charts. Congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
And with the latest album entitled Live 95, which includes one of my favorites. You got Mickey Fax, who I had a chance to meet and check out at the Kung Fu was it Necktie Kung Fu?
Kung Fu Necktie, yes,
Kung Fu
that's
Necktie.
right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was so dope. And I'm
Yeah,
glad
he's
that
awesome.
you continue to work with him. I actually follow him now, sits on IG, and he's a
beast,
sword,
man. He is a beast. I love him a lot. He's so inspiring, you know. So yeah, I love that dude.
Yeah, Kadesh Flow on there. And if I'm correct, I could be wrong. Was that the announcer from the NBA Jam who did the Boom Shakalaka message?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was.
How in the whole Hades did you find him?
Man, I just thought there's no better way to start off this record than having one of the voices of my childhood. And this might be spoiling a little bit, but his name is Tim Kitzrow, and he's available for bookings. Like the dude has a legendary voice and he has a website and he's like, yo, you could book me, like get me to say some things, tell me what to say if it sounds good or whatever. And
Oh,
it's
dope.
not ridiculous, I'll do it. And so he records people's like voicemail messages and stuff. And I was like, oh man, well, this is perfect. This is the way to start this record off with my man. So So I was really happy to do that. I was
Didn't
big
miss a
on.
beat either. He said it just like
you.
he did in that game too.
Right.
The minute I saw that, I was like, the minute I heard that, I was like, no, is that really
man.
him?
He's amazing. He was super cool. He gave me like 4 different versions and different verbiage. Just like, whatever you like, let me know. And I was like, oh, this is great. I want to use all of them. Like he's so good, man. Yeah, he killed it. I wanted it to invoke the feelings of the 90s, for sure. I wanted that album to feel like the 90s. And NBA Jam is such a big part of it.
Oh, huge. Insanely huge. Like, I hate to put you on this point, and I don't know if you're going to want to answer this, but where do you rank this album with the others?
No. Well, that's a tough question, but honestly, man, I think I really love this album. I'll say that. All right. But to be fair, I rank these albums based on kind of what they are and what they were to me at the moment and how they were created. So a full length album is like, to me, I only say I have like 10 of those. Like, there's not a lot. I've done a lot of like mixtapes, EPs, special releases that don't count toward the album that I think about. So this one, I think it's a classic. I think this album is so good, but I was very deliberate in what I was trying to do and what I wasn't trying to do.
Right.
So I was not trying to reinvent the wheel on this record. I was not trying to create something that was, like make up a new flow or a new style or a new this. It was very much a dedication to a moment in time, the 90s, and a time that was very, very influential to me. Yeah. And so for that, I think I knocked it out of the park. Now, I think the concepts are better on Random 2015. I think that album is more personal, more I guess maybe, I don't want to say like commercially acceptable, but maybe like there's some more songs that I feel would that get a crowd going. Like I still play Infinite Lives to this day. I still play OP and those records. There's not an Infinite Lives or an OP on Line 95 on purpose. Right. Like I wasn't trying to do that. So I still think that Random is my favorite album. The Two Hands Up album with Young RJ, I think, is an absolute classic, but also doesn't touch in those same ways. There's no like big moment of anthem single, So I was trying my best to me, I put this at the top. This is top 3 Megaran albums. That's what I say.
It is awesome. I do love it. I also love the other version of Church that you did too in there.
Oh, that is dope. Thank you. That's on Extra Credit, which came out in 2017. Yeah. And that one is, and that was like a cool, like, man, just the weird things that happened in my life where I just happened to run into Cisco from Drew Hill, who tells me he's a fan of mine. And I'm like, what? Like, how does that happen? And he's like, yeah, man, I've been listening to your stuff.
You answered it earlier on.
You don't know who's listening, man. And that's how it went. And he was just like, dude, I love your stuff. I play Dream Master for my kid when he goes to sleep. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, man, like I really love your stuff. And I'm like, get out of here. And so I was with a friend who was like, well, you got to let him hear the new thing you're working on. And I was like, stop. Don't say that. Like, I hate to do that. Like, I don't push my friends to like collaborate with me. Like, let's work. Let's collab. Here's my business card. I was like, no. And she's like, you got to let him hear that Church. You got to let him hear it. And I was like, I don't want to be that guy. And he was like, well, what I got to hear? I got to hear Church. Let me hear it. And she's like, all right, here, it's my ringtone. And she pulls out her phone and she plays it. And he's like, listening. And he's like, yo, this is dope. This is dope. And I was like, really? And then and she was like, well, only thing that'd be better is if y'all collabed and did a remix. And he was like, shoot, say less. And I'm like, what is happening right now? And that's how it went down, man. Like, yeah, just friendship.
What's happening is that good things happen to good people. And when stuff like that happens, I take focus on that. Like even stuff that I've been, had the opportunity to do, especially just in the last year or so. I mean, just not just, being on here with you, getting to work with you, but also like, working with Repop and getting those opportunities and all the stuff and doing all that. Like that just doesn't happen for a reason.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This stuff happens because you worked hard, because you deserve it. And that's a part of that's something that I've always had to tell myself. And it takes a while for me to really
Everybody, it happens to the
convince
best of us. We
myself.
all got
It's
to
that,
do it.
that imposter syndrome, man. That's real.
Yeah.
And so you're like, man, do I really deserve this? Or did I just like luck my way? Did I trip my way into this? Did I just con somebody into this? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's like, nah, man, you deserve it because you're good at what you do, and you work hard, and you show up, and you're thorough. And so you have to really tell yourself that, and convince yourself that you are good enough.
I mean,
and,
anybody who's taken psychology
mm-hmm.
will tell you that, like, that's one of the things, like, self-efficacy methods that you need to do. Like, you need to sit down, because you are a great example of that. I'd rather you do, make you an example to me, but you're a great example in the sense that you're always on the go, but you don't have enough time to stop. And when you do, you don't think about that, especially because you're on a roll and you think you're not doing enough or anything like that. Well, you did one of the biggest self-efficacy methods in creating your own memoir, which will remind you forever and a day of what you've done to this point. So if you ever do feel like that, and everybody's human, they will feel like that every so often. If you're not doing enough or things are not as going your way, you got to go. That will re-energize you. And I love that. And just for people who, have been through what you've been through, it would be like a way to relate to that as well. I mean, just what you've done, I think what you probably don't understand, or hope you understand, is that this memoir has done more than what you expected it to do.
Wow. Thank you.
And trust me when I tell you, I can't be the only one who really thought that or felt that after reading it from there.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I hear that, and it never gets old to me. It's not lost on me. I don't want you to think I'm like, oh yeah, I hear that every day. Like, no, man, people have hit me up from all over the world telling me that they've been able to relate to these stories, which is insane to me. I'm like, how? Like, these are very specific Philly things. And they're like, nah, man, it's sometimes, all around the world is the same song. And a lot of people have similar relatable moments, and they're just very happy that I've told the story. And so I'm like, wow,
yeah,
for that reason, I'm glad that I've told the story too. So glad to be able to be that close to people where they can share that with me, Yeah.
So I got 3 more questions for you, but like, as always, man, I'm so honored to have you on the show and just have you as a part of every day of ACMG in my life and everything. So,
right,
thank you so much. Always a great opportunity.
No problem, man. Thank you.
So we continue on to albums. You're also a part of a new compilation album that one of my favorite promotions right now, All Elite Wrestling, is coming out with, called Who We Are. Can you talk about the album and your contributions in it?
Okay, so this is actually the first time I've been able to talk. It's so funny that when you work with wrestling promotions, everything's a big secret until it's not. You know what I mean? It's like, don't tell anybody. And then a dirt sheet pops up and has the exact same information that they just told you, don't tell anybody.
I know. Which, by the way, before I even say anything, they're advertising Revolution right now, and guess whose song is being promoted on there?
Oh, shoot. Would it be mine?
It would be yours. I'm almost as if they're making it an official annual.
Oh, I love that. I never know when that's going to happen. So
I just watched before I got on with you. I was watching the episode of Dark Elevation from last night that I missed, and they advertised Revolution coming up, but they used the same title song that you put together from the first time around. So it may be an annual thing now.
Wow.
I'm the chorus and everything, which you just revving it up is just
oh snap. I'm so honored to be a part of the story. And a company like this that's on the come up, that one, I think, is, before I get to that question, is just, I love that they're so connected to the community, in a way that we've really never seen in a major wrestling company, where, like, if the community talks and they want something to happen, they do their best to make it happen.
They listen.
And I love that they listen. Sometimes I feel like they listen a little too much. It's like, sometimes you got to be a little bit ahead of it. Like, if somebody just on Twitter says you suck, like, you don't need to respond to them and get them, kicked off Twitter.
I think we need to understand the power or the lack thereof of the vocal minority when it comes to social media.
Yeah. Like, the internet's not real when it comes to social media. Like, and I had to really understand that. And it was wrestling that showed me that. Yeah. Now, a roundabout way to get into your question. A couple years ago, the first thing I did about wrestling was the Matt Mania albums.
Yeah.
And we had What Culture. Shout out to What Culture. They were nice enough to premiere one of my songs every week. Yeah. We called it Monday Night Ran, and they would put up a new song, and it was the NWO song, or it was a Brock Lesnar song, or whatever. Yeah. And then the comments, they would trash these songs. I mean, yo, this sounds like if Brock Lesnar was in Impact, what his music would sound like, yo, this sounds like what this person would sound like if they were in Impact. Like
Right.
everyone just makes these really cruel jokes and just like getting their jokes off. And I laugh at them if it's funny, you know, but like, this sucks. Rap is trash. This is garbage. Rap sucks. Rap is crap. Blah, 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 you know? And then What Culture, like a WrestleMania weekend was like, hey, we're having an event. We want you to come by and, you know, set up a merch table, hang out, maybe sign some autographs. And I was like, sign some autographs? Like, your fans hate me. Like, what do you mean? And they were like, oh, you looking at the comments? Oh, that's not real. You know? And like, they had to tell me that, like, no, man, like the same people who say Roman Reigns sucks, you know, when he came through the ring, would try to get him to bump fists with him, or, you know, or touch him on the shoulder. I'll give you another
example.
You know,
the Cody Rhodes situation
Cody
right
Rhodes,
now.
Same thing.
I just went to you know, we hear it online with the internet pretentiously act like they hate him. Mm-hmm. But if you go to an event, a live event, Cody greets everybody at the door. There were lines so long because he's taking pictures and shaking hands, and like these look like the same amount of people in quantity that will be, you know, crapping on him online.
Yeah,
it's
the same people that's going to boo him and diss him. Like, it's not real. You know what I mean? So I had to really understand that. And when they told me that, they're like, yeah, because they get hundreds of thousands of hits and hundreds of, you know, negative comments. And they're like, yes, no, that's not real. Like, the people who show up aren't these people. Like, these people don't even exist. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, they almost don't exist. Because they never show their face, and if they are in person with you, they're gonna show you love, and that's exactly what happened. They all showed love every time I went, you know, to hanging out. Every time I was, you know, they would come up, shake my hand, ask for autographs. Oh man, your stuff is great. I loved all of your songs, and I'm like, really? Wait, y'all the same people who like, you know, who crapping on it, you know? So
unbelievable, man.
Yeah, man, it's not real. So the soon as you get through that, you know, then you understand. And so that brings me to this project. Yeah, there's a ton of artists on this project, and I love that, you know, a lot of them are getting their first, I think, bit of kind of like exposure on this magnitude. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so because of that, a lot of these folks aren't necessarily used to that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So they're not always used to getting the, you know, people looking at them, making a comment. So a lot of people are reading this stuff and being like, getting upset by it. Like, oh man, people are dissing the blah, blah, blah. They're dissing me. They're dissing my music. They haven't even heard it yet. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, it's the internet. It's what they do. Look,
if I reacted to the internet the way it pretends to be, I would be in some like really deep mental trouble right now. But I've realized that like what happens online and the way sometimes I get treated too is different from what I get treated if I'm in an area live or whatever. I'm actually interacting with those same people. It's just like you said, it's pretentious as hell.
Exactly. So the album is incredible because its proceeds are going towards the Bootsy Collins Foundation. So it's all for charity. It's a celebration of excellence. And when I got hit up to do it, Mikey Ruckus said, hey, yo, I want the people who are involved with this, like you and other folks, to take full control. Like, I'm not going to make a beat for you or tell you who to talk about or whatever. Like, no, I want this to be created by, inspired by, powered by Black artists. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to stand in the way on any of that.
So this is not just excellence. This is Black excellence that's going to be represented.
Absolutely. Like, and so when you see, you know what I'm saying? Like, WWE would never, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. Like they'll treat it like Titus O'Neil right now.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been incredible to be a part of this, you know what I'm saying? And I'm seeing the response online. Everybody's like, oh wow, this is a great idea. Like, how do you boo this? Like, how can you possibly hate on this when this is something that literally any wrestling fan, especially of color, has been asking for? Like, yo, recognize me, see me, you know, like,
give opportunities, look out,
us, like, you know what I'm saying? And so, but now people are like, well, does this mean a Black person's going to get a push? Does this mean we're going to get a Black champion? And it's like, yo, it's a young company. there's so many
Thank
other
you.
questions that happen with that. It's like, come on, who's ready?
Do you
Like,
understand that this has only been around for 3 years?
Yeah, this is so young. Do you really want them to just hot shot Dante Martin to world champion like
Because it
right
works
now?
so well for like other places like TNA.
You know what I'm saying? Just right now, just because. Like, all right, here we go, world champion. You're like, what? You know what I mean? Like, come on, you got to work your way.
Society, man. It's just this short attention society is it's boggling because this world where we only express ourselves in 240 characters now, I guess it's just always about what we can do now and not the slow build. I grew up on the slow build.
Yeah,
I'm patient, I don't mind it. I didn't mind it when like Dusty Rhodes took like a few years just to get to that title run.
Exactly. Like nobody's into the slow build anymore.
No.
So but yeah, and you got this, wait and see. I think this is going to be great. And I think people are going to like this for sure. And comes out February 18th on CD, and the proceeds will go to charity, and then there'll be a digital release after that. So
I'm getting it all.
Yeah, I ordered one myself just so I get the free poster.
I mean, honestly, as a wrestling fan myself, AEW has done so much in terms of really empathizing with their target audience, really looking out for their target, and not just, their target audience consists of the younger demographic, the LGBTQ, the Black community, the Asian community. I mean, like they're trying to grab as much possible and do the absolute polar opposite of what every other promotion, including WWE, has done. And I appreciate it. The effort that has been put into this since day one. I love it. And I think people are just, there are people who definitely get it and understand it and appreciate it. And there are other people who still appreciate it, but choose to want to go be contrarian about it by going the other direction.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm glad that you are a part of that.
But I'm just I'm honored. Like I really am. I'm so happy.
It is dope. And it just, again, it's a testament to everything that you've done. And I really, like I said, I appreciate your road. Your road has been all inspiring. Your journey has been inspiring. I am happy because I feel like I get a rub off. A rub. I should say that doesn't sound right, but I say in the same fashion that I like say like meeting Molly Flanagan or just even Stan Lee, for God's sake. It feels that vibe, but in a more personal level because we Philly and you've been through the same thing, and just it inspires me to keep going.
Yep.
Regardless. So I thank you for your road and taking on that road. I say this every single time we talk, but I can't stress it enough.
Thank you.
So with that said, I got one last question and then we can hit you with the plugs because I know you got tons of them. But when it's all said and done, man, like what do you want people to recognize most about your life and legacy?
Well, I just want people to know that, I was just a regular old guy who just got a irregular call and a regular idea and just decided to just make the most of it. That's really what it was like. And I want people to know that they can do the same, just work hard, continue to innovate, just strive for excellence and as easy it is to go and do what they do and sound like they sound. And, it's a lot more fulfilling to do it your own way, and to stand out for sure.
Agreed. Absolutely. And what a way to end this whole entire interview. Megaran, thank you so much, man. Just awesome. Like I said, just a pleasure to get a chance to have your awesome intro to my show every week on Talk Time Live. It is just dope as hell.
Thank you. I'm honored to be there, man. Thank you.
My Jack of Spades theme music.
Every hero needs his theme music.
Every hero needs a theme music, bro. So much. And shout out to K Murdoch as well, because he, you guys are a great tag team. You guys are the FTR.
Wow, thank you.
Brain busting the scene all around with y'all beasts, man. This is good.
That's what's up. Thank you.
So without further ado, please let us know, let your fans know, let the listeners know, let the watchers know where they can find you.
Oh man, just go hit me at megaran.com. You get music at megaranmusic.com. I'm on Twitch 3 days a week or more, twitch.tv/megaran, and Instagram as well at Megaran, and pretty much just throw in Megaran onto your Google machine, not Meg Ryan, and you'll find me, I guarantee.
Awesome. So again, thanks again, man. You've been the best, and I look forward to seeing what you got going next. Because you're definitely probably going to have something going on next.
Oh yeah, there's always something. Man, I can't even talk about what's next.
But you know, like in like 3 days from after
interview.
this interview, there's something's going to pop up. It never fails.
That's kind of how it does, man. It's really weird. But yeah, like stuff just happens fast. But again, I'm under a lot of NDAs, so I wait.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I wait till stuff gets announced.
You mess it up.
Yep. I can't do it. You know, like I was tight-lipped about this album, and then like I saw it everywhere. Apparently, like Mark Henry just leaked it in an interview.
He probably was the one that wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, like somebody probably told.
Mark Henry comes off like that dude, and like he just, dude, you wasn't supposed to say anything. Oh, my bad. But you ain't gonna do nothing.
Like, yeah, what you gonna do? Sorry. My bad. But yeah, like that's always how it goes in wrestling. It's like, don't say anything, and then somebody says something. That's how they say, tell a friend, tell a phone, tell a wrestler.
Well, dude, thanks for being on the show. And like again, keep doing it, keep inspiring, keep being the best that you can be, and we keep representing.
Yes, sir.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this very special episode of Talk Time Live exclusive with myself and the one and only Raheem Jarbo, aka Megaran. On behalf of myself and Mega himself, all I gotta say is learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is ACMG presents Talk Time Live. We are out of here. Take care, be safe, everybody.
Peace.